My name is Moses Powell. I've been studying jiu-jitsu for the last 20 years. I'm the master Furqan Visitation. And at this particular time, I'm a senior master in the art of jiu-jitsu Te and jiu-jitsu Ryu.
.radio.net presents to you some of the most deadly jiu-jitsu masters in the world. Trained in the vicious urban inner-city street combat system of Sanuces Ryu Jiu-Jitsu, this art was created by the legendary Dr. Moses Powell, the father of American contemporary jiu-jitsu and the greatest martial artist of the 20th century. This network brings together 4 radio shows 4 nights a week, starting with Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. Each one teach one, with the Pia Master himself, Grandmaster Urban Muhammad, and his protege, Professor Terrence Hale. Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Modern Combat Masters, hosted by the inheritor of GM Billy Davis Jiu-Jitsu, guru of his own Filipino system, and Sanuces Master, Grandmaster Daryl Sargent, and his co-host, Sifu Reseda de Jesus. Thursday nights at 9 p.m. is Professor Tom Curry's radio talk show. A Kenpo Master and Professor of Sanuces Ryu, 20 years law enforcement, senior tactical training instructor for intelligence retired, and author of the official Sanuces Ryu Jiu-Jitsu testing and training curriculum. And Friday nights at 8 p.m. is Making the Connection, hosted by the president of DocRadio.net, Grandmaster in the art of Sanuces Ryu and Soke of Kuroshi Kaikan martial arts system, and president of the Family of Sanuces organization, Soki Haisan Khalik, and his co-host, Shihan Farouk Gibbs. All of these shows can be linked to online by typing in docradio.net or listening live at the scheduled time by dialing 646-716-6825. DocRadio.net is also proud to present DocMagazine.net, the world's largest martial art magazine dedicated to Dr. Moses Powell, Sanuces Ryu Eye-to-Eye Jiu-Jitsu, Urban Tactical Street Self-Defense, and Streetology. Please join our Facebook group by typing in docradio.net and follow us on Twitter by typing docradio.net. Thank you for your support, and in the words of Doc, eye to eye, heart to heart, to the wall and back, us.
Welcome to the Furqan Shabazz
Radio.
Welcome to the Furqan Shabazz show. This show is dedicated to the legacy of Dr. Moses Powell, as well as to the legacy of all the great African Americans that's come before us to get us to where we are today. Today I have an interesting guest, Grandmaster Rudy, who's one of the original students of Dr. Moses Powell in New York City in the early 60s. Actually, I'm going to call him into the show. Give me 1 second.
Hello, no one is available to take your call. Please leave a message.
You gotta love the live.
Hello?
Hi, Grandmaster. You're on the Furqan Shabazz show.
Right.
Yeah, you're live on the Furqan Shabazz show. How you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing fine so far. I got back from the funeral. You there already?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I just let you know you're actually on the show. So let me just continue with the guests. So to the listening audience, we have live Grandmaster Rudy, one of the original students of the legendary Dr. Moses Powell. Before I start this historical interview with this Grandmaster, I just want to let the audience know about the new format that this show will have. First of all, there will be an intro, like the guest that I just brought in, Honorable Grandmaster Rudy, and then also at some point I'll also bring in a guest. I'm going to have every segment I'm going to have a guest co-host that's going to come in. This person is going to be you're not going to know who he is. He's going to be related to Sanuces, and I'll bring him in, and it'll be a surprise, and he'll join at some point. We'll also have a heart-to-heart segment, and then we'll also take calls from we'll take callers from the audience. So with no further ado, let me introduce Grandmaster Rudy. Heart to heart, sir. So before I'd like for you to open up the show. Just tell us who you are. How did you meet Dr. Powell, and just start it off, and I'll flow from there.
Okay, because like I say, I just got back, so it won't be long. I'm not, they say Grandmaster, but I don't call myself Grandmaster. I'm one of the followers of Grandmaster Felicitation, Dr. Powell, two of the greatest martial artists I would ever know. I'm not a Grandmaster. I'm a servant of theirs. I try to follow them around and do what they tell me to do. Everyone's talking about Grandmaster, but I don't believe in Grandmaster because I don't have slaves. For one thing. The next thing you know, Grandmaster, I'm not a dragging Grandmaster slave that they were carrying us into. So I'm a servant of Grandmaster Moses Powell, Dr. Powell, or Professor B. The Grandmaster, they can go ahead.
Let me ask you, Grandmaster, what rank did you get from Professor V and from Dr. Powell?
Yeah, we have this, but to what I came from, when they say Grandmaster, to me, like I'm a master of someone. I don't have slavery, even though I have the two certificates that say Grandmaster. But to me, it don't mean all that. Like everybody, I'm a Grandmaster. And another thing about art they got on, everybody want to be, they took over my school, Eagle Star. I'm not Sanuces. I'm not B. I could never be one of them. I couldn't even fill their shoes or becoming one of them. So I'm not qualified myself to be taking over a system or say the name of the system. Like I say, everyone now, think over Sanuces, want to be over Sanuces. Don't nobody have the mind of Dr. Powell. Don't nobody have the mind of Professor B. I came up under them. And like I say, I'm a service to them. Same thing like you say, I'm a service to my students. I come out to teach my students. So I serve my students. They're not no slave for me to tell them what to do. And as long as I get this in the head to get this started, this is what I will be. I was with Dr. Powell for years. And I always love him as a teacher. I follow him as ever coming up. A lot of things I did with Dr. Powell, I was there. Dr. Powell, a lot of people saying Dr. Powell. But to me, I learned from the guys that were with me. My same people that were going there were learning with Dr. Powell. The thing we did that everyone I have see going around now, they're saying Dr. Powell does. My thing came from the people who worked with me. The Grandmaster John Davis, Grandmaster Lorenzo, Grandmaster Mumble. All those people come around. I was working out with them. They were teaching me as long as I was going with them. This is people that I learned from. Because I could take Dr. Powell, but I couldn't never say Dr. Powell, what if he is, he going to throw me around. I couldn't throw him around. So the people I worked with, they helped me become who I am now. the John Davis, the Lorenzes, the Lil John, the Mumble. These people that I work with, this is how I learned. So these people were more of a teacher to me than I, because I could do this to them, they could do this to me. You understand?
Yes.
As long as you could do this with your student, I understand where I came from. I had a business. I was a truck driver. I had a business out there in the street. When I came in, I couldn't run to Dr. Powell and work out and know what he did before I came back get off from work. I go to Grandmaster John. I go to Grandmaster Mumble. We have Brother Jeffrey. Around the St. John, you had a lot of student banding and all. I worked out with these Chuck, Chester, David. Even had a little young guy in the school named CeeLo. I even learned from him. He was one of the youngest students. I don't build myself up to be over these people. I'm the same as they are. When I walk the street every day, I'm the same as the people walking the street. I'm not a person that build their chest up and stick out in the front and say, hey, I'm this. People don't live long. When I work out, I try to work out with my students, saying they say they come around and do a seminar. I don't like to do a seminar. Because I would like to be private myself. What I do in the house and do in my dojo, I'm doing it. Same thing they're saying now. I'm running. I have my school. Like I said, I open up Eagle Star. That's my school, not Sanuces. I'm the Sanuces. I open under vegetation. I went to City Hall to get a seal to put in there where I pay tax in my building. Now I'm trying to buy a building now. It cost me $2 million because I work for that. Then nobody give me that. My company paid for that I work for. I built the company. So all the people getting a headache about this, I get all the people I work with respect. The Noah Ayrton, the Mannings, all the people I give respect. I'm not no better than them. I'm not going to try to be no better than them. They were people I work with. So they're going through all this, the big arguments now, and I hear this one want to be this and this one want to be that. That's not me. I'm an everyday person. I'm a be that person every day. I don't want nobody to build me up. The movies, like I was telling you the other day, the movies, when I met Dr. Powell, I first seen this man when he was young. He was just like a battleship. And we were the PT boat following him. I remember a long time ago when Dr. Powell had 25 students following behind him. Everybody got respect from each other. Everybody loved each other because that's the way it was. This new style of whatever, I don't want to be no part of it. Long as I was Dr. Powell, when I would come up, I come to his school saying, hey, I tell you, when I came up along Dr. Powell, he was Dr. Powell. I mean, he was young, and I never seen nobody pass him. Like I said, I came up, I used to be a professional boxer. Grandmaster John used to be back in the days. He used to ask me, Grandmaster Lorenzo, he used to ask me why I don't hit people. Why I used to go to tournaments. So I wasn't that I didn't hit people. I was scared to hit people because I was a fighter. I figured I hit somebody, I'm going to jail. So I kept on this saying, hey, this is the martial art. Somebody hit you, you can hit them back. They shouldn't have told me that. I used to get disqualified all the time because I like to hit people. And that's what it's doing.
Grandmaster, let me ask you, around what year did you start training with Dr. Powell?
In the 60s, in the early 60s, around 65, 66, like I told you before. When I was Dr. Powell, he used to have a school before he had went to 125th Street. He used to be in Beauty Powell, different schools when we went to 125th Street. That's where we used to be. That's where Dr. Powell really had a school when he was at 101 West 125th Street. We used to go in that school and work out. He worked out. He became a student then. Now, and then he left from there. Like I said, he left from there. When we came to Atlanta Avenue, went to St. John Recreation Center. He went to the Gorilla Den on Northern Avenue. A lot of places he had went, but like I say, I followed him a long way. A lot of places I couldn't go. Like I say, I had a trucking company. I was on the road driving track and trailer. But when I got there, always came around. My wife used to tell me, you should go around and live in your school instead of coming home. And that's how it worked back in them days. We used to live from 125th Street. We'd come down 125th to 8th Avenue. We walked by Grandmaster Pardue School. They had a school on 125th Street. And we used to come down there. We used to come out and like wait till some of his students when they come in. This was when and Dr. Davis was real young. And the mom was real young. And we used to do kiddie things like this. I wasn't that young, but I'm 39 now, so I don't want you to tell people I'm older than what I'm telling you. I'm 39. But this is what happened in the school back in them days. Now the schools in these days, I can't be involved with them. That's why I say I don't do seminars. I don't like seminars. Seminar back in them days when Dr. Powers used to carry out the seminar back in those days, they were seminars. Colleges. He used to work out, you didn't have master work out. He used to do seminars in colleges.
So Grandmaster, so what's the main difference between the new school, the new generation of Sanuces masters and the old school generation of Sanuces masters?
Well, the new thing, right, Dr. Power, they had went to school when Dr. Power was young. A lot of people that were going to these schools now, when Doc was going to school, they wouldn't stay in the school. Because when Doc was back in his young days, a lot of people did not even come into school. I used to see people come from different part of the martial art. They work out with Doc a day, 2 days, and they don't come back. That's how rough it was back in them days.
What was the training like back then? What was the training like back in those days?
Oh, brother, you didn't want to know. We used to go to school, like, Grandmaster John was one of the top students there. When he used to come in, we walked in the school and bow. Everybody kept around you, do your exercise, and whatever it is, exercise is just one of the things you used to do. Sometimes he had priests and he had jiu-jitsu, he had a judo, he had a aikido. Like on a Saturday or the weekend, he put all three of them together. You probably come in and say the lower belts go home early. When you become a black belt, a brown belt, black belt, you say you come to school at 1 o'clock in the day. In the afternoon, you probably leave 6:30, 7 o'clock after you get through working out. The last thing you used to do in school after you get through doing all the exercise, everybody commentate together. Not you against I. You work against everybody. Everybody get on the mat. Everybody kick everybody. That's the kind of workout we had. But then when the doctor said us, that was it. Everybody used to lay on the floor. We used to work in judo gis. The gis, when you turn out and get up, you can take the judo gi and you can rain the water out the gi. That's the way doctor used to working nowadays, even when he came to Atlanta. When he went to St. John Recreation Center, it was the same thing. When this young man was, yes.
Now back in those early '60s, that's when it was called self-defense complete, correct?
Oh yes, because that's why he called complete. That's why it was called complete. Because he has so many things he had mixed into it. That's why it was called complete. It wasn't just jiu-jitsu. It was a mixed thing of martial art. And he mixed it. That's why he called it complete. And this is what we do.
now back in those days, that was so self-defense complete was one of the first mixed martial arts.
Oh yes, sir. He was one of the person that did this.
I see.
The man was so brilliant, he can look at you and tell you what you were thinking before you even thought of it. That's how his mind worked.
Can you give me an example of what you mean by that?
I say you could, like me, when I first went there, I had an attitude, like I told you before. See, when I used to get run out from town, my ancestors came from this country. They were here. They were on a reservation, what it is. So I always had a chip on my shoulder, and he seen it. When I first started working with him, he used to tell me, you got an attitude, but I'm going to get that attitude. And what you know about my attitude? Oh, but he just going to read your mind. If you thinking something wrong, he can walk out and tell you, like just about what you're thinking. Like when you think about kicking his butt, you want to do this, huh? And that's the way he thought. Like he was a mind reader. And a lot of things, that's why you give him respect. A lot of things that man do that I couldn't see another one. When I first met the doc and see them work out, I didn't think no one on the whoop that man until I seen that man who taught him that visitation.
Now what was the difference between Professor Visitation and Professor and Dr. Powell? What was the difference between these two men styles? Martial arts.
Well, to me, with Dr. Powell, I learned how to fight, which I know how to fight anyway, but he taught me the way of doing things in the street without boxing, how I would take myself in the street without going to jail for boxing. He taught me how to go into tournaments. What's that thing they call today, traveling? That's the way I learned. Because I was boxing, I was doing, I used to get disqualified because this is what I learned. I didn't go to tournaments for no trophy. I want to learn if this man teaching me what I'm paying for. So this way, and when I went to tournament, this is what was happening. Everybody was saying I was getting disqualified, but if he isn't, but I want to find out for myself, do this work. And most time I go there, I get disqualified. Professor B, when I started working with Professor after I met him, he taught me how to teach, how to work with students, how to show people different what this work for, what this for, what this punch for, what this is for. This is what I learned. This is the difference I learned between both of them. I love both of them. I always will love both of them. When both of them died, I couldn't stand, I had, hey, you kid, when they called me and told me he had passed away with this. Another thing, like I say, I can't be on here long. Another thing I would let you know before I did this. A thing, like you say, when we were going to school, I mean, all people that were going when I was going to school, there was a lot of respect for each other. We got a lot of respect for each other. We used to watch each other back. Somebody go into a tournament and somebody jump on one, they got to fight everybody. I remember when Grandmaster John Paul Cassell, I'm there, and nothing gonna happen to him. This is my brother. I remember when he fought for the grand champion, that 6-foot trophy, when he put Big Jerry, for Kareem School. I was standing back in the round, back of his back, same thing I had his back. He a beautiful people, but he always used to have a smile on his face was he fighting or not. Are you telling you got to stop shaking people's hands. You got to stop. You got to put a face out there. People trying to hurt you, but he always had that smile on his face. But he found out when he fought Jerry Hayes, for real, when he knocked really Jerry out, Big Jerry out, to win that 6-foot trophy out there on his back. This is what we had going along, the Hudson, the people that we came up with. We had so many people that fighting that passed away. Kenny Ashton, Gary, the Mo. A lot of people that passed away back in them days before I opened my school. So when I opened my school, like I said, I'm the Eagle Star. My school will always be Eagle Star. I will be always Eagle Star. When Grandmaster, Lamumbo, Noah, and people that, and Manning, people that I came along with back there, and then I opened up a school on Ernie Moore, 335 public school. You came open up a school and tell the Grandmaster that Dr. Powell gave you the time to open up a school. I opened up a school and then tell him. Then one of those people came back and he asked where to open up a school. Or one of my best friends told him, so he was scared to take that beating that I opened up a school. I took the beating. Yep. I took it twice. Then after that, I had to go get my 6 brothers. You know who my 6 brothers were? You can tell the audience who my 6 brothers were.
Us. Yeah.
You're not going to keep doing this to me. So, hey, first time when I got my 6 brother, he took it.
Hey, Grandmaster, let me ask you. How did you come up with Eagle Star? What brought that about?
Yeah, well, as for a young lady that when we opened up at school, we were sitting around trying to figure out the name, or we had opened the school under. So we would figure out what was smart enough to do, and we were looking around. We seen an eagle. So, what an eagle do? So we looked it up and found out there was an eagle. And what I fly around up in heaven? A star. So we came up with the thing, Eagle Star. We put it together, and that's why we came up with Eagle Star. Found how eagle attack.
Now, Grandmaster, let me ask you this question. As V-Jitsu as a system and Sanuces as a system, you have grandmasterships in both of these systems. So at the highest level, in looking in these systems, what is the difference? Like, is there a difference between the Sanuces approach and the V-Jitsu approach?
No, well, see, it's so hard to tell. Because when we came, we learned both things at the same, and like I said, once you mix so many arts together, like Professor V, every so many years, he'll go somewhere and he'll take off that belt. Say, yesterday, if he want to learn judo, he'll take off that belt, he'll go learn judo. If you want to learn Aikido, whatever it were, like say 55, 65, and 75, that's the way he was doing every 10 years he'll train, and then he'll add it to his system. So just like Dr. Powell, the same thing. He came in as Aikido, and he added on to his system. So once you combine all these systems that you have, and you put it into one thing, this will make you the person that you are. Like me, I used to walk the street. After I trained with these people, I used to be scared to walk the street. I wasn't scared of me. I was scared of the people. I was scared of me. Because I see you walking down the street, before you get to the corner, I wouldn't look at what I'm going to do to this guy if he make a wrong move. I couldn't sleep with my wife. She'd be in the bed, we go to bed together, but you turn around, hey, she tell me you got to go sleep on the couch.
Wow. I heard somebody told me that about Sophie Littlejohn. They said that sometimes when he's in his sleep, when he's in his sleep, he's doing techniques in his sleep.
You better believe it. We used to walk the street together.
Yeah.
And we used to come home sometime from Atlanta Avenue. If we couldn't walk, we had to be. They almost got me into trouble. And we always used to watch your back. we were coming down Atlantic Avenue, got around Pringle Avenue. There was a young lady walking behind me. I didn't know she was there. And he turned around and said, "Watch your back." I turned around and almost hit the woman in the face. And you tell me, you better get on the train. No, taxi, you got to take him home. This is what that word. And he did the same thing. You can't walk behind him. He the same way he jumpy.
Now, Grandmaster, I know you just had a death in the family, and I appreciate you still doing this show with me. So I'm not gonna keep you long, but my last few questions is before you started training with Doc, you was a professional boxer, right?
Yes, I were.
And you told me that you're left. Go ahead, sir. You have what?
16 professional fights. 17. I lost at 17.
Oh, well, and I remember when you said that one of the guys that you fought had 79 fights and 59 knockouts.
59 knockouts.
And you beat that guy?
No, he beat me. That's why
he beat you. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Don't tell everybody that now. I won't everybody know. You can erase that. Tell the people I was just kidding. Yeah, well, he had been fighting.
Yeah.
Tell you how good he were. He had fought Beneke Ferret to a draw. Beneke Ferret was a champion. And that's where I fought. And after that, they say, have you come up? You know, people was out for a while. I led the club. I even have a certificate for that. I used to fight. And so them 3 certificates I have up in that room back there, like I said, they just back there. There's something that I have, but that's a piece of paper. That don't make me no better than nobody else. I ain't got nothing to fight against somebody else. Like I say, I'm not over Sanuces. I don't want to be over Sanuces. I'm not over the Jiu-Jitsu. I don't want to be over the Jiu-Jitsu. I'm not those people. I don't know what they had in their mind to teach. So how can I fill their shoes? If I were as smart as those 2 people were, why would I have to go to them to learn?
Grandmaster, let me ask you, what is the main thing you saw in Dr. Moses Paul? Like, what is the uniqueness about that man that you saw as a martial artist that you have never seen, that you've only seen in that particular man?
Well, when I was, like I said, when I walked in, I first seen the doc, I seen how smooth it were to be, as big he were. Never seen a person be as big and quick as ever this man is as he moved. You can see the movements in it. You know, like say his stickers or silk when he moved. And this is what he was saying. But if I could be like this and add on to my organ that I already got, I would do. I work out with this person to find out, can I do this? I tried, went to a lot of people to go to this. After I worked out with Dr. Powell and Professor V, sometimes I used to work out with Grandmaster Eddie Farrell. They had them out. But as far as Dr. Powell is concerned, to be as big as you were and as smooth as you were, like I said, I don't think I'll ever see anybody like this again. Like I say, he had a lot of people that he taught. Like I say, Grandmaster John was one of his top students. Grandmaster Mumbo. It went down the line like this. And as he taught these people, I could see what he taught them. I say, he teach these people and they can do this to each other and do this to me. This is something I want to learn. And as long as I learn, the more I stay with him, the more I learn.
Hey, Grandmaster, do you have about 10 minutes more for me?
No, I got to get up. I got to get up in the morning.
Okay.
Well,
I'm gonna definitely wrap it up. And before I wrap it, I just want to say when Doc, a few days ago I did the honoring of Dr. Powell's. He had passed 7 years ago on January 22nd. And I wanted to know where were on the topic of that show was where were you when he passed? And I'm going to ask you where were and listen, I'm going to end the show with this. Where were you when he passed, and what were some of your last conversations with Dr. Powell before he passed away?
Well, when Dr. Powell, at the last time I had him, when I was going on promotion for my Grandmaster, I had a talk with him. I wanted to put him into business. I wanted to buy him a van so he could start his own business. And I told him that when we were getting, so his boy got back to me. But he went on the road, and he came back. And Gina had called me up and told me they wanted to move from Vermont. I didn't have a van. I had a tractor and trailer. And the next thing I know, he had moved to Miami. But I came off the road. Somebody had called me and left a message on the phone. See, Dr. Powell, forget it. I talked to you some other time.
Thank you, sir, thank you for the interview, sir. Hush. Hush. That was the legendary Grandmaster Rudy. And this is the beginning of our new format, and I just want to thank him for giving us that interview. Let me just applaud him. And I'm sure that there's some people that, even me, everyone is still affected by the legacy of this great man, Dr. Moses Powell. We still have some more time on the show, so I'm actually going to bring in a guest host. Let me bring this person in.
Hello.
Oh, this is Grandmaster Darryl Sargent. Welcome to On the Mat.
Oh, thank you. That was a wonderful interview that you just did, brother.
Yeah, I feel bad, man. I feel like, I didn't want to end the way it just ended,
Well, it shows you that he has a lot of love for Dr. Powell. And Grandmaster Rudy Jones is a legend within the Sanuces. He's a legend within Jiu-Jitsu. And to even have him is just a wonderful, wonderful thing.
So I'm definitely going to call him tomorrow and thank him again. Man, I want to thank him again, for giving the opportunity to interview him. And hey, let me ask you, what were some of the things that you've heard about him, or some of the things that I didn't, because I know he had just got back from Florida for a funeral, but what were some of the things that I didn't get a chance to mention about him that maybe you could tell the audience more about this man, Grandmaster Rudy?
I don't have too much info on him, no, but he's one of the very early Jiu-Jitsu people. He is one of the people that know all of the early Jiu-Jitsu information. The time that he trained in Sanuces, there was a time that Doc's system, the self-defense complete, that was a serious time of training because all those guys were very, very young at that time. So there was a lot of very vigorous training, rigorous training going on. And the biggest thing I've heard about Grandmaster Rudy was that he really knew a lot of both of those systems at the times that he was in it, that he was excellent at what he did.
Us. Hey, Grandmaster, we got one call on the line. Let me just see if I could bring this person to the conversation. 2275. 2275. You're on the air, 2275.
I didn't know I was on the air. As a matter of fact, I didn't.
Yeah. I just brought you on the air. Chief Professor Shem Yehuda?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I want to just keep you on the phone. Let me just also say who this is. This is Chief Professor Grandmaster Yehuda Shem. Let me.
I had queued into the host, but go ahead.
Yeah, so hey, I got two heavyweights on the phone tonight. Chief Professor, do you know? I mean, what do you know about Grandmaster Rudy, and what did you think about that interview? What can you tell me about this Grandmaster?
Specifically?
Yeah, just as it relates to the arts and stuff like that.
As it relates to the arts, he's been a consummate martial artist. As far as whether or not if we've reached the goals that we set for ourselves, that's another story.
So let me ask both of you gentlemen, since I have both of you on the phone. You know what? I'm going to just turn this into a round table. This is the Furqan Shabazz show. This is 646-716-6825. We got some time. We got about an hour and 21 minutes. If you guys got some time, I got some time. You want to just kick it and let's kind of open up this conversation about Doc. I'm going to pass it first to Grandmaster Dallas Sargent, then I'm moving on to Grandmaster Professor Shem. Grandmaster Sargent, I want you to just take us somewhere in the Sanuces rule. Right now, I'm not interested in the drama of Sanuces. I'm not interested in the politics of Sanuces. I'm more interested in the intellectual creation, using the language of Chief Professor Shem. If you could just kind of start this round table, when it comes to the intellectual creation of Sanuces, what do you want to talk about tonight as it relates to the man, Dr. Moses Powell?
I think that when I think back to my training, a lot of it was done actually with Chief Professor Shem in When Worlds Collide. And so really, I think that he would be the best to start the conversation because I definitely have to defer to my senior.
Okay, so let me change the language up for the Grandmaster here. Grandmaster, this is the question that I have for you. One of the interesting things about you, and Grandmaster, you're very in the Sanuces nation, the Sanuces family. You're a very high profile. Attention getter. Matter of fact, when I was on when I had my other show, the On the Mat show, I did 33 interviews. Out of all the interviews that I did, your interview brought the most archived listens to. It surpassed everybody. Your interview had 450 people listen to that show. 450 people. There was no show that came close to that. So, and I had the numbers on every single show. So based on that, that tells me that you definitely are somebody that people, if they don't mention in the public, behind the scenes, people are definitely listening to you. One of the things that I want to ask you, Grandmaster, is this. I know that you are known to have one of the most in-depth library and catalogs of the intellectual creation of Dr. Moses Powell. I also know that you have the syllabus. You have a syllabus of Dr. Moses Powell that goes from white belt all the way up to 5th degree, black belt. Also, that's interesting because this Friday I'm going to be interviewing Professor Curry. Then feel free to call on that show as well, because he's going to be talking about his syllabus. But my question to you is this. The fact that can you tell us about the in-depth library you have, and also from white to 5th, just tell us, can you give the audience, go deep into this intellectual creation based on all of this reservoir of knowledge that you have on this man, Dr. Moses Powell?
Well, for a fact, the manuscript covers the amount of hours that are necessary to get a grasp of the material that's on the different levels, from the developmental exercises as well as the required techniques for that particular level, as well as the ability to work the material out from a solo perspective to interactive. The interactive, it gives one the more insight because you actually understand the principles of two objects can occupy the same space at the same time. Whereas in solo, All you need to do is follow the muscle memory that is being taught, as well as whatever repertoire that's being passed on. Mind you, not the repertoire of the universal, but the repertoire of the intellectual creation, whichever discipline that might be. In this case, we're speaking of the river that never ran dry. Okay, let's say, for instance, we go to the category of strikes. Ask the question, how many strikes are in this that are inherent to the system of Sanuces root? What are the names of those strikes? Then you go to the next category, which would be blocks. How many blocks exist in the system that are inherent to the system itself? And how many are of the repertoire as a whole can the exponent actually do? So, people say that this art is better than that art. No, what it actually boils down to is not the size of the dog, but the fight in the dog. What are you willing to do to get home? And what are you endeavoring in? Can that help you get home? Does it answer the question?
Yes, and now, Grandmaster. Now, when you look at Aikido, you see a certain flow. When you look at karate, you see a certain flow. What is some of the categorizations? Like, how would you categorize the flow of Sanuces? What is the categorization of the Sanuces movement?
The categorization of the Sanuces movement is touch and go. Touch and go is the equivalent of Kumite, but you don't get no break. Let's say, for instance, you take an individual, take an entry. Fan block, sword arm, collarbone, flying rollout. Where did the flying rollout go? Did the flying rollout take you away from him, or did you use the flying rollout to strike him with, or take him out? So all the material that you're getting eventually has to link up like a link in a chain. It can't be where this can't go there or that can't go there. It has to come down to a point of you knowing where you want to put it at and where you want to be, and being where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there to make it happen at the right timing. Because if those pros and points are not there, then ain't nothing happening. As that big hand motherfucker would say, if ain't no rhythm, ain't nothing happening. So your feet move you where you need to go. If they stuck, then you got a little problem. Okay? If you notice, in his later years, the art actually evolved around him, his movements. And we, as the individuals who had our full range of motions, we had to pay attention. And if you wasn't paying attention, then that was your problem. I mean, if you ask the question, how many of us attend some type of academy or institution and don't take any notes? You don't take any notes, then what can you highlight about the subject that was brought, or what was being highlighted in the subject that was brought? Those notes later on help you define what information that you are passing on and how far you have gotten in the actual application of that information. Because after Fifth Dawn, now it ain't about no block, punch, and kick no more. Well, it stopped being about that around about Nidon. But just to say, for the sake of argument, you can speak to a student over the phone, and so long as they have a working understanding or overstanding of the terminology and the category of techniques as well as the terminology, then they'll be able to do any technique that's in the system. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. Hey, I have a question as well.
Hey, you know what? Before Grandmaster, what I'm going to do is I want to be the student and listen to you great men just kind of talk back and forth. So you guys just kind of do your thing, just talk, and I'm going to interject at some point. But you guys can kind of take over the show and just kind of go back and forth.
Okay, let's say thumb control. Thumb control is a technique that was inherent in Sanuces, but you see imitations of it in other disciplines. whether they understand what the movement is actually doing or what they can actually get from it.
Okay. So Chief Professor, when you look at Sanuces, what cultural entities do you see in it? Do you strictly see Japanese? Do you see a combination of that with African American? Do you see that African American and being that Professor is Filipino? Do you see all of those things combined? What cultural entities do you see within Sanuces?
I see an art that was created for the modern day man and woman. Now, how we apply ourselves to that knowledge, that's another story. Some of us want to hold on to the Budo traditions, and don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with the Budo arts, but this art itself is not a Budo art. And anyone that thinks that has seriously not done their homework. If the founder himself was born in this hemisphere, raised in this mindset, then they would not have the mentality of an individual that came from a rural area. And techniques could be antiquated. They could be for grassy area or topography that not urban. Whereas in the city, the concrete is the last place you want to be, but at the same token, as the big hand motherfucker said one day, the ground hit harder than Moses' power. It's a non-stop, and it don't give none.
Right. So I remember when I used to go down and train, and you were doing a lot of the teaching, there was some points where the teaching had like I guess this is the question. What in the earlier stage of Sanuces, were there the sets? Like I remember distinctively learning some elbow sets from you and some different things. At what point were those things in Sanuces, and at what point did Doc kind of take those out and just kind of go very much into just from the universe?
Understand something. Iron Man or 5-star never was extracted. It was just a matter of whether or not an instructor included that within his curriculum and the materials that they're presenting. Yes, we have a different clientele that pursue martial arts these days. And a lot of instructors, upon the basis of that alone, hold back the material, do not present the material in its entirety. But we received the mandate from the river that never ran dry, and it states that know to whom you're giving it to, and give it up like you got it. If you be good to it, it will be good to you. Now, if one have not committed themselves or endeavored, that statement that mandate would mean nothing. What would the mandate mean to you if given from your facilitator, mentor, instructor, teacher, whatever you want to call it?
Basically, to give it without the cut, make sure that it's given pure. Because
it was not, to go further into it, he said, it is not for you to decide whether or not if that student can handle it. It's up to you. It's for you to put the information out there, and that student will determine whether or not if that is beyond their ability to digest it or their mentality. Do they want to do the bathtub special where you just do it in the mirror and then you don't have to worry about getting hit back? Understood. Okay. There is nothing wrong with an individual endeavoring to get themselves a little healthier from that way. But so long as the facilitator is up front and saying to them, as long as you don't get out there and call yourself defending, doing none of this without the other part to it, then you won't have no problem. This ain't Taibo, and Taibo ain't for defending yourself. It's for building your respiratory system up and getting your cardiovascular running and getting rid of the jelly roll. Other than that, it's good for nothing.
Right. So now when you came into Sanuces, were you there at the time that the schools were open across the street, Doc's school and then Professor V's school across the street? Were you, like, at that time frame where they were traveling back and forth across the street after one class was over? You know, they would kind of intermingle between the two schools?
Occasionally when my funds provided for it, but I was mid-70s, 71. So Professor V would still come across periodically, but in truth, my interest was not in Professor V. My interest was in Dr. Moses Powell.
Right.
That's not to say that the visitation arts didn't have or was not the message that it brings. It was just not the message that it was bringing for me. Okay?
Yes, sir. When you first started, who was some of the I guess like the hierarchy? Like, who were the main people during that early stage? You were talking about like 1970, 71 in that time frame. Like, who were the main people that were really teaching during that time frame over in the Sanuces school?
During the schedule that I attended on, Grandmaster Pedro and Grandmaster Noel, they ran the dojo. Sometimes Sister Ronnie would have the comm. Only two of the classes I can remember actually participating in with Professor Pedro as the facilitator. The rest were Dr. Powell's, actually under his, he was under supervision.
Wow. So, like, during the years that have gone by since, like, 1971, we know that Doc, of course, has always grown. He was continuing his growth and stuff. Can you talk about some of the differences that you've seen from that early stage, from that, like, 1970 stage through maybe, like, the early 90s or the mid-90s, kind of when he, the injuries or whatever was starting to kind of get him to have to sit down more and stuff like that?
Well, he told us an analogy one day that Professor V gave to him about if the instructor becomes Stephen. He said, if you become Stephen, one day you're going to try to get even. This is an instructor lashing out or striking back or being mad with their students. This is the last thing you want from a professional perspective, as well as from the standpoint of a teacher to a student. And from a student to a teacher, a student without a master is nothing, no matter who you are, no matter where you came from. Okay. Changes in realizing that his mobility was not as swift responsive as he would like it to be, or as it was. The PSI on any application changing from 100% to triple that, sometimes even more, from change your world or put you on clear street, not so clear street, to just crunch. So there was technique that would drop you right on the spot. There was technique that would take you out to your flat back. There was technique that would take you over on your face from your back. or just over on your face.
Right.
Clandestine teachings that were, if you were not a part of the first series of training the trainer and teaching to teach, then one missed out on what was considered as clandestine teaching that would be taught in Sanuces forever on to maintain its authenticity. All right? If you didn't bother to ask or try and reacclimate yourself, then you are stuck wherever you came in at. And then you're just mimicking moves that, yes, as an accomplished martial artist, you could do the technique, but do you know the place to be at when that person outweigh you by 300 pounds? Are you still trying to pick up a 300-pounder at 65 or 50 years old? I don't think so. Now, how about making them pick themselves up or understand that it's about gravitation and then still being able to use it at this level? Those are the things I've seen come to fruition through that individual skill and exposure to him.
So not only was there the physical changes because, of course, age and different things, but what about the philosophical changes that went along with it, along with maybe the spiritual entity moving in as well?
Well, spiritual Dr. Powell was that way before his knowledge of the arts, part of his being. Okay? Teaching the martial science and martial discipline in this hemisphere is not philosophical. It's theoretical, and theoretical to practical, if you follow what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay. You have someone teaching you a discipline, and their aggressor is in front of them. So, is that aggressor using just their hands, or does that aggressor have educated feet along with their hands? If that be so, then how can I approach this individual and still be successful, have a successful outcome? In Aikido, they define it as Form 1 or Form 2. Am I correct?
Yes, that's true.
Okay, so this gives an exponent a way to define whether or not if whatever they're doing is being done by going to the outside or being on the outside or remaining directly in front of this individual. So in every art, those theories have to exist because that'll be the fact that it's based upon. And then from that point, up is up, down is down, left is left, right is right. Inside is inside, and out is out. Outside of that, then you have your ability to envision further than that. Your divine thought, that pure energy that comes to you, the energy of our forebears that have passed, and us trying to gather that energy, because energy can never be stopped. It can only be redirected. Can we redirect it to ourselves?
So basically drawing from the ancestors' energy.
Yes.
Right. So now, in your time, I know that there seems to be a close relationship with Sanuces and Ike Elmore. Can you share with me, a little bit about why is that relationship so close? I know there was a lot with Professor Elliot Farrell and all that. Can you explain a little bit about that close relationship?
In the early 60s, all of the black martial artists formed the Black Martial Arts Confederation, and they agreed or made a pact that they would watch each other's back. If there was something that came up and they were available, then they would handle that and then work out the logistics or the particulars later on. Okay. The cohesiveness of that did not remain because you're seeing fractions of it now. Individuals who became renegades, individuals who decided that they were going to open up dojos and did not realize that the business of running a business is not the business of chop kick on the floor. That is one aspect of it, but then there is the logistics and the paperwork that makes it function, that makes it profitable, especially in the urban part of the world. In our part of the world, black martial arts is a homegrown business. That's not something that's taught. That's something that's learned. That's something that one has to realize past the point of, I want to become a black belt. Okay, and then what? Are you willing to go? After you get a black belt, then what? Do you plan on teaching? Do you have any aspirations of going any further than that? No. Okay, so then let's do this, and then we won't worry about the rest. Go ahead.
So, in essence, the relationship was basically between that pact. Was there ever a time that Doc trained under Professor Elmore and Grandmaster Farrell?
No. In actuality, Grandmaster Elmore was a consummate martial artist long before Dr. Powell came into the martial arts. Elliot Farrell, Grandmaster Ronald Duncan, Professor Maynard Minor. All of these individuals were students of Professor V's at one time, long before Professor Powell came on the scene. Upon his hearing Professor V in a class, he came inside of the dojo, and from that point he submitted, all right? From his consistency in training, Professor V decided to have him teach the students that he already had, even though all of them were already accomplished martial artists, which most of them took offense to. But I guess the straightening part out of it was for them that if the master is telling you that he has chosen that individual to disseminate the classroom information, then that's what it is. If you have a problem with that, then you have a problem with the policies of whatever administration or institution that you're involved with. That's insubordination. Punishable by what? Possible demerits, sanctions, or whatever that master may deem that's lawful, since this is not feudal Japan. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I believe so. What significance did Professor Elliot Farrell have in the African American community? Because I know that he was one of the first, I think the first African American to ever receive a black belt directly in Kodokan. Well, and I believe that Doc had a very good relationship with him and really looked up to him because he was at he was a much more of a senior.
A lot of these guys used to run together in the streets. A lot of them come from hustlers' backgrounds. Okay, and as I was saying, they were all accomplished martial artists long before Dr. Powell met them. All right. For instance, you asked about Grandmaster Elmore. Grandmaster Elmore was an accomplished pugilist as well as Aike Jiu-Jitsuist. Okay, he was not a showman as we know people to be. Is that okay? So think of a computer, and you send a program into it, and it spits you out probabilities from the information that you sent into it, even though you may have never considered those other probabilities or options. Did the program copy what you did, or did the program decipher and make other possible outcomes of what the information that was input to it? Such was the mind of the river that never ran dry. So there is Aikido's Kodegash, and then there is Sanuces underarm wrist throw. There is Sanuces underarm reverse wrist throw. There is Sanuces underarm reverse side throw. So there's 3 different ways to do the same throw. Whereas in the Aiki, there is only one way to do wrist turnout. Oh, no, excuse me. You can do it as a takedown as well. My apologies. Yes?
Yes, sir. So now coming into Sanuces during the time that you came into, it was just before Doc changed the name. Is that correct?
Well, when I got there,
self-defense complete.
Well, I understand something. When it was self-defense complete, I was still itching my daddy's drawers. If then. Okay, so when I knew about Dr. Powell, it was as Sanuces. Okay, so my understanding of the arts of Moses Powell's evolution from self-defense complete to Sanuces eye to eye to Sanuces eye to eye, heart to heart to the wall and back. All right, so there had to be research done on what was the format and materials being taught in the arts of Moses Powell up to the point of its evolving into Sanuces root. Does that kind of clear it up for you?
Yeah, it does a little bit. I know that at different stages of the development of Sanuces, or at the different phases of Sanuces, there was a lot of different, I guess, core things or core techniques that Doc was working from the early stage of Sanuces towards the eye-to-eye stage and the eye-to-eye, the latest stages. So can you speak about maybe some of the core techniques maybe of the early stage of Sanuces, like during that 1971 stage? What was the core? Was it really more hardcore judo, jiu-jitsu type of stuff, or, was it more of an Aiki type stuff? What was the core kind of at that earlier stage, that 71 stage?
Grandmaster, there was never any Aiki core. There was only one core, that close from being real.
Right.
So,
right.
Any shocks that you got, the shock was definitely sustaining enough to take you anywhere he wanted you to go. All right. At the same token, if you're not going to pass the material on to you as it's given, then you're cheating, and you're being cheated. You're being cheated of knowing what the result is of what it is that you're doing. Okay. The person that you are maybe ukiing for, they're being cheated of an honest attack to jumpstart their response or action. Because when the click, you move on it. But if it ain't happening, it ain't.
Right. So, Chief Professor, can you speak about training in weapons in Sanuces? Because there's many that don't know that there was weapons training in Sanuces at one time.
There always is. It ain't never stopped. It's just a matter of were you there for that class? Did you come late?
Mm-hmm.
All right. There was never anything where only in the 90s did we get introduced to this wooden knife, rubber knife thing. Other than that, there ain't never been nothing but the real thing. Okay, we used to have a drill, and it's a rollout drill. It's duck with machete. Duck, jump, slip, fly, and roll out. Okay. Sometimes we deal with the shinai, sometimes we deal with the machete. Same thing be done with the sword, all right? So again, duck, jump, slip, fly, and roll out. Now, you mess around and forget what you're supposed to be doing, you got a problem. So you always have to have your mind on what it is. What is your goal in doing this? Since we're not competing with each other as students, you're competing with yourself. You're finding out what moves you, what motivates you, whether or not if you're going to be the message that they bring, if you're going to be a disgrace to God, or that you become what the Creator put you in this world to be. You will even find out that most people have the impression that they decided to study martial arts, but in actuality, the martial arts chooses its exponents. You don't choose it; it chooses you. It eliminates a whole lot of the fluff, and then what you have left is the germ that you can go ahead and get a new crop from.
Furqan, man, you still there? You got questions yourself?
Yeah. One of the things that always, there's this one word that just always, when I hear this word, I just always think, my mind has been conditioned my whole life to think that when I hear this one martial art term that this is the most dangerous art, and that word is Aiki Jiu-Jitsu. Now, how does Aiki Jiu-Jitsu differ from Sanuces? And is Sanuces a form of Aiki Jiu-Jitsu?
Understand something. How much research have you done on the evolution of this art form coming to be? Does this art form have a 50-year existence? Because Sanuces is relatively a new art form to the martial arts realm, but the concepts of battle are not from New Age. They've actually been practiced since days of old.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm still learning. Like I'm learning constantly.
One more time.
I'm still learning about Sanuces. I learn every day. Like I'm learning right now.
Okay, let me tell you something about the Moses Powell DVD visual library and archives. It is an ever-changing archive. You can watch it today, and let's say you're watching a core entry, toe-to-toe, fan block, sword arm, backhand, sword arm, wedge. When you watch it tomorrow or play it back again, you'll see the same repertoire, and you'll see it from another angle where you could bring palm across the chin down vertical, or palm across the chin down horizontal, palm across the chin down stepping toe to toe, because you can play it from the outside or you can play it from the inside. Once you then worked all the pros and points out of it, then there should be no problem. If you are dibbling and dabbling in all those other things, then you've got no time to get the material right. You don't even know what go where. Okay, how many times have you ran the repertoire of the strikes that are in Sanuces? Well, you spent the whole class and you just ran the striking repertoire of what's in Sanuces. Hello? Call out there.
I'm gonna pass on that. You go ahead, Chief Professor.
Okay, so, or how many facilitators or aficionados in the Sanuces discipline have put that on the menu for their membership body, so to speak? Or we come in and we work one of the second generation matador drills. Okay, matador turn. Add sword arm to the motion. Add capture spear hand. Add recapture back fist. Spinning on the ball left.
Now, Chief Professor, and that leads to another question. But the other question that I have is still, but Aki Jiu-Jitsu, how does Aki Jiu-Jitsu differ from Sanuces?
It's traditional. It's traditional in the sense that you have attacks that are antiquated and not from the mentality of the modern man. Butch, the one that hang on the corner who's hiding in the shadow of the tree, guess what he know how to do? He know what a victim look like. He know what you look like, what you smell like, what you taste like. Okay, so if you ain't updated your curriculum for that mentality, then you are cheating the consumer. Not whether, and doesn't boil down to that you're cheating them on purpose. Is that that's what you know, and you can only teach what you know.
Okay, but Chief Professor, let's say, for example, a good visual of although they try to market it as Aikido, but it's really a lot of Aki Jiu-Jitsu more than Aikido, and that's some of Steven Seagal moves, like let's say above the law, like some of those movements. Now, wouldn't you agree that the movements that Steven Seagal is doing in a lot of those movies was pretty effective?
Are they effective?
Yeah. I mean, to the consumer, looking at it, looks pretty effective. Wouldn't you agree?
From another mindset, yes, they would be effective. From the standpoint of entertainment, that's all it is. Because when it comes down to it, you can't fake this funk. Either you got it, you're training on it, and you're doing it. Because ultimately, how you train is how you are going to fight. So if you about to train, let's say you want to learn Kumite, and the person that's teaching you Kumite allow you to keep running, whether you running backwards or you running around the ring. You haven't stood your ground at one point and got on your horse and did nothing. How long? Okay, so who's loving who? Do you really? So at the point he make you stand your ground, and then you find out what it's like to get kicked, or you find out what it's like to get punched. Okay, and then you find out whether or not if you're gonna still be there after the strike has been thrown. See, because there's throwing the strike, and then there's after the strike has been thrown, just as well as there's counter, and then there's counter to counter. So that's what you asked me about when you say Aiki Jiu-Jitsu. I only concern myself with one thing, Sanuces.
So Chief Professor, okay, so what about like in an interview I did a few months back, we interviewed Dr. Phil Shanique, and actually Professor Rockman called in on that call. And one of the things he asked the doctor, he said he was trying to make the point, how many blocks was in the system. So the doctor, he said, there's one he primarily focuses on, and the professor was saying there's about maybe 5 or so blocks. Now, I've had conversations with people about that interview, and some say, well, what's the point? What's the point of that there are 5? And then some may say, well, even if I do know 5, I'm only going to maybe use 1 or 2. So from Dr. Moses Powell's perspective, how would Dr. Moses Powell answer that question? Would Dr. Moses Powell say that only 1 is needed or only 1 is important? And would he just say, like, how would he view that scenario?
Let's view this scenario. You're standing in the doorway with someone, and you're not standing in the doorway where the door opens. You stand in the doorway where you have the two posts there. Okay. You've got no room to step back, do you?
Right.
All right. But let's say, for instance, you can make a circle with your arms. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, in the sense where you get rushed, whether it be with a strike or whether it be with a punch, you can roll it off and not have to worry about getting overwhelmed and ran into the doorpost, or try the karate aspect of it and try that step-down thing and wind up either running the back of your brain into that doorpost or the funny bone that won't be funny, or your coccyx, and it's all over. You'll be laying there, a gelatinous gel in the middle of the floor. So you have it for extreme close quarters situations, as well as situations where you may have a bit more room to act, for crowd control situations. If they don't cover those realms, then you're going to be kind of missing out.
Let me ask you, when people come into the Sanuces curriculum, especially at the master level, I guess if I had to paint an analogy, it's like, let's say like in Brooklyn, I used to live not too far from this grocery store called in Pathmark. I've never seen Pathmark outside of New York. I don't know if they have it. Maybe they have it in New Jersey. But let's say you go to Pathmark and there's core things. When you go grocery shopping, you typically have a diet, and you typically don't deviate from the main things that you buy. Would you say that there's certain core things in Sanuces that masters take from Sanuces? Like, okay, I need this, I need this, I need this, I need this. And then there's some other things that say I don't really need this stuff.
Of course, that's your pseudo Sanuces.
Now, okay, so now let's open it up. As a matter of fact, let's kind of make that the heart-to-heart part of the heart-to-heart segment. And so when you say, matter of fact, let me just make this a heart-to-heart right here. So now we're going to call this pseudo Sanuces versus Sanuces. I want you to explain the two, and then I'm gonna go from there. But explain it. What do you mean by when you say pseudo Sanuces?
Pseudo Sanuces is what the big hand motherfucker call flash dancing. If you check the Dr. Moses Powell, In Memory to a Grandmaster Volume 2, there's a group of junior masters in front of him doing the technique that he just got through giving them. He stops the entire class to let them know that that's not what he gave, as well as he didn't appreciate the fact that them standing there flash dancing in front of him. If the technique called for you to get dropped and you still standing there through the whole technique, then who's loving who? Okay. That's pseudo Sanuces or flash dance. If we came there to learn, if we endeavored in a discipline, then the only thing that we have in common in actuality is the study of that discipline to whatever degree it may be or may not be. Would you agree?
Oh, now let me just pause you here, Chief Professor, for 1 minute. I read a book a long time ago by Bruce Lee. I think it's called The Tao, something like that. And in that book, it was a thick book, his face, and it had like the yin yang on the front cover. And he talked about how martial arts is like you got two types. He said you got one that's like imitation wine, and he said the other one is like olive juice. And he said you could never develop a taste for imitation wine. He said over time you can't acquire nothing that's imitation, but he said over time you can acquire something for olive juice. So if the pseudo Sanuces is the imitation wine, and if Sanuces in its purest form is olive juice, what is it about Sanuces rule in its purest form that makes masters or some masters don't want to go all the way through the repertoire? Like, what is it about it that make that it's they don't want to stick around? In other words, what makes a person like you to acquire a taste for it, and in other masters it's hard for them to acquire a taste for it?
I can only speak for this ass right here. I had a desire for the martial disciplines more than a baby wanted a titty, more than a man sought love of a woman and to be in her arms. Not that I didn't know what the opposite gender was. It's just that was not at the front of my goals. If you come into something with reservations, then you can only get as far as the reservations that you have drawn. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. I didn't come into Sanuces with any reservations. I didn't ask anyone's permission or what they thought. Should I go to Doc and do remedial studies with him and become his intern on his internship? That their opinions, thoughts, or ideas were the least of my concerns. My concern was this was an individual who had reached the pinnacle. He was the Lee Iacocca at martial arts. The man who started it all. If it wasn't for Dr. Powell, then there wouldn't be no Soki Little John, no Lumumba, no Bill, no...
Hey, Grandmaster, are you still there?
Yes, sir.
Hey, I'm gonna. So I'm gonna turn it to Grandmaster Sergeant, because now Grandmaster Sergeant, from my understanding, will be more of that of the modernist view, in the sense that he's gotten a master level Sanuces, but he's also has studied other arts like Panatukan and Filipino arts and things like that, boxing and stuff like that. Now, Grandmaster, I mean, from your point of view, what do you think about enhancing Sanuces with other arts, particularly from the Filipino? Like how from your perspective, how do you see taking Sanuces and can it be enhanced and should it be enhanced? Can you talk on that?
Oh, well, understand something. As far as the short weapons goes, Sanuces has its own format on that. So again, it goes back to whether or not if the trainee has bothered to immerse himself in the materials and the curriculum that is available, whether it be from a human data bank or whether it be documented, and then they resource it as close as possible. Make sure that there is no doubt about the information, how it applies, because how Arnie's or Kali is done is not how the short weapon is used within the intellectual creation of Dr. Moses Powell.
Hey, Grandmaster Sergeant, are you there?
Yeah.
Yeah, can you answer that question in terms of your point of view, in terms of your evolution in Sanuces as it relates to South Asian arts?
Well, I just, for me, it was just my own personal study. When I looked at the stuff all the way, from where the whole family, like the family stemmed from Professor V through Doc and so forth, then I just saw that there was an influence from, a Filipino standpoint. So I just chose to extend my teachings or extend my studies with that as well. Now, do you have to go outside of Sanuces? No, you do not. Sanuces has its entity from beginning to, to the highest levels. Can you do that and choose to go and expand on things? If you choose to do that, which, I had chosen to do, then yeah, you can do that. It's just really going to be based on an individual. Now, again, a lot of that's individual thought process and what a person, chooses to do. Do they have to? No.
I was listening to the interview on my brother's show, Salahuddin. He did the show. What's it called? Get Off First. Hey, did you guys hear that show with Soke Ose? Did both of you hear that show?
I did.
All right, Chief Professor, did you hear that show?
I got shotgunned.
Okay. Well, one of the things that Ose said was interesting. He said that Doc looked at him and basically, to paraphrase it, I think he was calling it V Cool. And basically he was saying that the V Cool, basically the lineage, he was talking about the fact that, that it's the lineage, it represented the lineage of where they came from, just paying respect to all the different masters. And then there was another part of the interview where Soke Ose said that when Doc came to him and said, well, what's wrong with Sanuces? And tears started coming to his eyes. And I guess because, every time people, because Doc would say every time someone would learn this art or get far in this art, he always felt the need to change this art. But if Doc was living today, because back in those days, we're talking maybe, 20 years ago, a good amount of time ago. But if Doc was living today, there would be way more than one art that has changed. There would be tens and tens of arts. You're talking many, many, many arts that have now changed the names like that. So if Doc was looking now, and if Doc was living now and look at, would he be crying now, or would he not even have any more tears to cry? At this point, to both of you, what do you think he would say now? The fact that there's so many. You actually have students of students who's now created their own styles, which has been directly influenced by Sanuces. What do you think Dr. Paul would think about that?
Well, again, there's a process for individuals who call themselves creating the system. That process was to give legitimacy to martial arts systems developed in this hemisphere. Okay. Ask the question, did you take any notes while you were in training? Okay. The answer would be, or should be, yes. All right. At the point that you can do you have studied from the front to the back, and then from the back to the front, then you can show the individual or showcase what you have to as far as introducing your new system of martial arts. Hopefully that it does not have in it any of its components that exist in other martial arts disciplines, or you have not created anything. You have just brought together arts that already had pre-existing movements that already defined them as being one particular art or discipline or from a particular category. So Sanuces
Chief Professor, but to play devil's advocate, in the first part of the show, Grandmaster Rudy, he even said it when the first art was created, before it was called Sanuces, it was called Self-Defense Complete. And the reason why it was called Self-Defense Complete is because he took Aikido, he took Judo, he took Karate, he took boxing, and he felt that by putting all these things together, he would have a complete self-defense. Hence the name Self-Defense Complete. So at what point in Sanuces did Doc interject anything that wasn't already in any of these other arts, other than him putting his perspective on it?
He introduced throws that are not inherent to other systems, but they are in others. It is defined as a throw that's done in Sanuces. All right, hand throws that are done in Sanuces. Very few throws you see that are actually inherent to Sanuces in the intellectual creation of Dr. Moses Powell. Is he picking up anybody?
Okay, now, so other than the throws, what else?
Okay, you have locks that are inherent to Sanuces rule. You have the introduction to the bow and arrow lock. the bow and arrow pin. Then you have it from its different angles. All right. You have trapping the breast. Trapping the breast is also comes out of what the other arts know as Tai Sabaki. But those are the core movements that are inherent to the system that keep it alive. So that we're having an update next month. You can't be there, so we teleprompt it to you. Your teleprompter go out, but you still have audio. As long as you know the names and the glossary of terms that are used in the discipline that you are studying, you don't have to. It doesn't have to be explained to you how to do the move. You already know, because you would be at that level of discipline. If that level of discipline and that standard of competency is not reached, then you got yakamane, sauerkraut, raggedy as hell, flip boom bam, thank you ma'am. This is Sanuces how I do it. Okay. Well, or this is as far as I get. Well, I'll go with that. Well, how come you didn't tell me that before I was put my name on the dotted line? That way I could have made a decision whether or not if you were the guy that I wanted to get it from. Or after I finish getting it where there's the most of it and the quality program, then I might be back here to get the part that you still got. Is that kind of clear?
Yes. Grandmaster Sergeant, you have any questions?
No, I mean the questions from before were answered, and I think that I hope that everybody was able to learn a lot about the stages of Doc's development. From both Chief Professor and from Grandmaster Rudy Jones. I'm praying that everybody was blessed by the interviews and the conversation that we had tonight. It was a wonderful thing that stayed positive, and it was a thing that is just about the teaching. It's about growing and developing, and everybody expanding their knowledge, and I appreciate Chief Professor for coming on and for taking the time to answer the questions and for taking the time to explain in detail the growth process and a lot of the things that many people do not know. A lot of people today they didn't have the opportunity to meet Doc or to get touched by Doc, and so to have somebody from Chief Professor's knowledge and who he is in the system is a blessing to be able to share knowledge from.
Hey, Chief Professor, I want you to tell the audience about your series of tapes and stuff like that you actually I think have for sale. And I wanted to know, can you tell the audience, like, in terms of your library of Doc, like, what is it that people can get from this library? Like, what is it in terms of material that people that this material captures, that this video footage captures?
From the intellectual creation, as far as the repertoire is concerned, it contains all of the last strikes or applications or entries that were added to the system by the founder himself, as well as a basis for any accomplished instructor to get you halfway through it. Outside of that, if they do not have first-hand knowledge of the glossary of terms and the terminology, then it would be a collector's item. All right? As far as for those individuals who teach the system, and since he is not here anymore, the video archives and library is the closest thing to having him right in front of you, where you actually have the time to go ahead and you set aside the time for a lesson plan, and you're not just going at the lesson plan from your head, you're actually going through it as it was laid out to the standard bar. So this way, that is perpetuated by your disciples and hopefully your disciples' disciples, if you choose to share that bridge with them. Other than that, they're just getting the information from you and maybe under the impression that it's coming from your head. But he was the only one that could make it flow like water. All right?
Now,
we have to think about it.
Now, Chief Professor, okay, and then tell the audience about this syllabus you have that goes from white belt to 5th degree, and also give me some questions or maybe something, and you may even call in because I have Professor Tom Curry coming in on Friday. I'll be interviewing him because one of the key things we're going to be talking about is that his claim is that he has the official syllabus of Sanuces Rule. But I want to know from your material, I don't know if you talked to him or have you ever talked to him about his syllabus, but how would your curriculum from white belt to 5th degree differ from what he has, or do you think it would be kind of similar?
I couldn't tell you about what his would contain in it. My syllabus itself would be from notes that I took while class was going on, lectures that I attended, and there was not a physical participant in it, but a mental participant in the lesson, because sometimes the lesson is not always physical. The lesson is always mental. Can you
now some of those? Can you tell us some of those mental lessons that you have in your notes that maybe most people don't know about?
Recognizing when to click and you move on it. Recognizing that your loyalty to an institution that provides you with a livelihood should be rewarded, especially if you're in a situation where you have resources. You know that the institution itself needs a place, and you've got realty that is not occupied. You owe it to that institution and that master to go ahead and make sure that that school is made available, and your classmates, your alumnus, they are also obligated in the duties of the trainee to go ahead and support that master and that institution. Yes, you can go off and do your own thing, but you still owe tribute back to the house that created you in the first place. Without that, you have no place to come back to, and then your history becomes stolen. Or as I said before, as another black legacy lost or stolen. Are we still? And you begin to steal other people's legacy. Let's try to keep it intact. And it's not about me. It's not about my fellow classmates. Because again, if we took Dr. Powell and put him on one side of the scale, and we put my monkey ass and all the rest of the Sanuces repertoire of embellishments and so forth on that motherfucker wouldn't move, not one iota. So we make a living from this, then let's give something back. Let's give something back to his blood family, and let's give something back to the memory of this intellectual creation that was left here, and we were left as the vanguards on that intellectual creation. It's given breast to breast and chest to chest. Now, after you get it from that point, then you can mass market it, you can commercialize it in the whole thing, like the Asian population did for us. Did they give us martial arts to help them in an economical situation, or did they give us martial arts because they wanted to see us get the foot of the oppressor off of our necks? Think about it.
Hey, Chief Professor, Chief Professor, you said something deep because we were starting to run out of time, and this is my 34th show, and it never fails. Once these concepts start getting to the meat of it, time always goes. But since I have you on this document, let me ask you. You said something interesting. You said that the information that you have from white belt to 5th degree, okay, you have that curriculum, and you also have your notes, and you also have a video. Now, by the way, how many videotapes do you have?
36. I'm releasing 18 to the general public. They are 6 hours. The majority of them are 6 hours in length. Okay, they cover all of Dr. Powell's teaching. Less than 2% actually have maybe a seminar or a workshop in it, and that would probably be Fighting Rhythm, one of the last Fighting Rhythm beats that was promoted by Soki Hassan, that was produced by Silky Lewis Brown from the EP system, and a Day of the Masters at John Jay College, and maybe one other. The rest of it is actually him teaching the system itself, and then variations of those applications. You'll have him doing the technique, and he'll give you not less than 5 variations of that technique. Now,
all right, so, okay.
If you don't know the name of the move, then it's kind of hard to duplicate the technique. If you at least have the name of the move, then you have a reference point to go from. Okay, so what is forearm block and what is fan block? What is matador block and what is matador turn?
Now, Chief Professor, I got another question. Something you said that was really deep. You said that you got the material that goes from white belt to 5th degree, and then you got these tapes. But you said that this information would be a collector's item, but if you didn't have it, but you said it, but what was deeper about what you said, and correct me if I'm wrong, you said that this would get you at least halfway through the system. Am I quoting you correctly, or am I not quoting you correctly?
Yes. Let's say,
okay.
For instance, as far as the developmental exercises, any astute martial artist can get you through the developmental exercises that will help you make the metamorphosis. After that will become someone that is familiar with the timing and the body weight that's applied to some of the applications in the installments.
All right, so Chief Professor, let me ask you this question. So the other half, how do you get the other half of the information?
You get the other half from the consultants like myself and Professor Rockman. We do seminars and workshops as far as for the technical support aspect of clearing up any misconceptions about how the move is done. What is the physiological response? What is the psychological response? Where should you be? Whether or not if it's toe-to-toe or heel-to-toe, how to apply that body weight, how to work the angles now. From a more extensive standpoint, the levels of intensity. How far do you want this strike to penetrate? What do you want it to affect?
Hey, Grandmaster Sergeant, let me ask you a question. You basically trained under Chief Professor, right? He was your senior at Worlds Collide, right?
Oh, definitely. He was definitely a senior. He was doing a lot of the majority of the teaching on the Sunday classes before Doc would step on the mat and teach.
Now, as a witness to his history, can you help me? Because I'm very young. Not just very young in essence, but I'm just like a young dude, like coming into this art. And I'm really a Johnny come lately. I mean, hell, you say Johnny come lately, you say Furqan Shabazz. I'm a Johnny come lately for real. But can you help me put him in perspective, like in terms of what was his position in that dojo, and how did the students react to him in that dojo?
What was his position at the dojo? Well, as I said, I was down there on Sunday mornings. So on Sunday mornings, Chief was doing the majority of the teaching before Doc stepped onto the mat, and that was whether it was really no matter who was on the floor. We had an all-star. It was an all-star class on the floor on Sunday mornings, and so Chief Professor would do the initial teaching, and when Doc would pop in and Doc was ready to teach, then Chief Professor would hand the floor over to Doc, and then Doc would take it the rest of the way. And if Doc chose to leave early, a lot of times he just left it to Chief Professor to finish off the class.
So, and you're saying, and on that Sunday class, Chief Professor, you said, taught the majority of the classes.
As far as I remember, for the Sundays that I was there, Chief Professor was doing a lot of the teaching. Like I said, in the initial part, Doc would come in, Doc would teach. If he chose to leave early, or if he chose to kind of sit down and chill out, he would, have Chief Professor, handle what he wanted to handle.
And what was the significance of this Sunday class? Was that open to everybody, or?
Chief Professor probably helped me out, but I know that it was like really teacher of teachers. It was most of us that were black belts that were there, and I know we had maybe some underbelts, if I remember right, but the majority of the people that were on the floor for the Sunday class, I remember as as black belts and instructors, and those of us that had our own, classes or schools going on. Is that correct, Chief Professor?
Yes, it was the Christmas tree wearing motherfuckers and above.
I think we 646-716-6825. You're calling the Furqan Shabazz show, dedicated to the teachings of the legendary Dr. Moses Powell. I got a call that just came in. Let me bring this person in. 8089. 8089. Welcome to On the Mat. 8089.
That's still in personnel.
Okay, so wow. So Chief Professor, let me ask you this question then. So let me ask you. So how many? So in terms of Sanuces rule, I mean, like, from your perspective, and you see what's out there. I mean, you know what's out there. You've been around the block many times. You've been around the block way more times than me. When you see what's out there, is Sanuces rule in its purest form, the way you guys had it in Where Worlds Collide? I mean, is that stuff? I mean, is it dying out? I mean, is it? I mean, where is Sanuces right now? From when you compare it to what's in your scrolls, what's in your notes, what's in them tapes, and then when you look at what's actually out here in this environment, where is Sanuces right now?
Sanuces is where the masters put it at. Is it a priority? Is it something that they love? If they don't love it, then it will not love them. If we have used it as a cash cow, then there will be a pain to the piper at one point or another. I'm not saying that I would be the bringer of justice in that the karma takes care of all of that. All right? If we want to be sincere, say that we want to be sincere, then let's try and keep the authenticity as close to it as orally possible. So that goes to say that it's been 7 years since he's passed, and the masters have said that they were going to document something and put something together, and there are those of them that said that they had something but never disclosed it. Well, look here, let's put it on the wood. I'm willing to consolidate as a consultant for this effort to come to fruition, if that's what they want. And then they can teach their own program from that. But as far as the Sanuces rule curriculum is concerned, we can come to an agreement that from viewing the archives, what development exercises are there, what are the required hours for individuals to go for examinations, okay? Because in truth, and it takes 10,000 hours for an individual to become an expert in anything. All right? Anything after that, you develop intuitive knowledge as far as to whatever that discipline may be, whether it might be flying avionics, it may be working below water, it may be welding. But at any rate, just speaking about the martial arts itself, if we dedicate it to something, then you're going to devote yourself to it as a devotee and as a loyalist. Okay. So that means that you ain't got no time to be studying no Wing Chun, no Utu, no Ji Kung, no, none of that. And that's not to take away from it, but how far is that getting you in this intellectual creation? And
so Chief Professor, not to cut you off because we only have 9 minutes left, but so you're saying that just as in depth as a Wing Chun and a Aikido, a Panatsuken, a Jiu-Jitsu, a Judo, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, as just as deep as all these styles are, a boxing, you're saying that's how deep Sanuces rule is?
The half ain't been told. The art of the fathers, that is my analogy of it. Let's say if you combine, as people do, Grand Professor Visitation and so forth down to Dr. Powell, then yes, the arts of the fathers is greater than any of us that can imagine. his imagination put everything in this art that we're going to need, from natural movements used in a combative mindset. Now, are we willing to take advantage of it, or are we just going to let it get commercialized? Do you want it? Do you want the real deal, or do you want to be sugar-coated? It doesn't come through osmosis. You got to put in the work. And the doctor said, the only thing that matters is train or don't train, and that doesn't really matter whether you're studying in one of the universal arts or you're studying Sanuces. The only thing that matters is train or don't train. And those that are not training, they can't talk, or that's all they can do is talk. But where the work at?
1 second. 1 second, Professor. 646-716-6825. You're calling to the Furqan Shabazz show dedicated to the teachings of Dr. Moses Powell. Before I bring in the next caller, Chief Professor, I don't know, like Allah just has been inspiring me, and I just have like this language that just been coming to me, and like I call it the Moses Doctrine, and in this Moses Doctrine, one thing I realized is that before, I say like a lot in class, I studied a lot like about how civilizations was formed and how societies was formed and how philosophies was formed. And one of the things I learned studying in universities was that, all cultures had a root, and that root started from a doctrine. Like they had a doctrine. You know what I mean? And that doctrine, out of that doctrine, the doctrine helped deep root whatever it is they were trying to establish. You know what I'm saying? And so I call it the Moses Doctrine, or the Moses Powell Doctrine. And the two principles that I see in it is, number one, that Dr. Moses Powell was the greatest martial artist of the 20th century. That's number one. Because I think, number one, you got to first accept that idea. You know what I mean? Like you have to accept that idea in your brain that Dr. Moses Powell is the greatest martial artist of the 20th century. Because I think once you can accept that idea, you can accept everything that comes with him, everything that he left you. You know what I mean? Because if you can't fully accept that idea, then you're going to always be looking outside of him.
Of course.
You know what I'm saying? And then the second principle that I have, that Allah revealed to me, is that there is no leader, like there is no leader of Sanuces rule. Hold on a second. Yes, Chief Professor?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that there is no leader of Sanuces rule. It's not, it's not Soke Little John, which I even told him on the interview I have. It's not Soke Little John. There is no individual that's over the teachings of Sanuces rule. The leader of Sanuces rule is the teachings of Dr. Moses Powell. The teachings of Dr. Moses Powell is the leader of Sanuces rule. And every master has his own amount of teachings. I mean, would you agree that's a true statement?
Yes, I can accept that.
Yeah, and I actually presented this to Soke Little John, too. I asked him, I said, because in the interview I did with him, there was a lot of questions given to me, and they were great questions, but it was only two I cared about. Because remember, I'm a Johnny-come-lately, so I'm only going to ask what's relevant to me. And I asked Soke Little John, I said, listen, the only two questions I really care about is, do you agree that Dr. Moses Powell is the greatest martial artist of the 20th century? He said, absolutely. And I also asked Soke Little John, I said, would you agree that there's no leader of Sanuces rule, but that the teachings of Sanuces rule is the leader of Sanuces rule? And he basically said, yes, he can agree to that. He can agree to that. And that came from Soke Little John, who was one of, who even Grandmaster Rudy spoke very highly of, So I think that by beginning to establishing a doctrine, I think that would play a big role in deep rooting the teaching in the earth. What do you think about that?
Let me say to you this. The credo of Sanuces. What is a man and a woman in the martial arts? A man and a woman in the martial arts is a man and a woman that thinks at all times. And then it goes on about possessing speed, power, grace, form, and technique. From that point, it go on to speak about when walking and walking in peace. And if controversy or when it happened to fight, we fighting with those that fight with us. And if you have to fight, you fighting to the death. Okay, so it has already been laid out. So when you ask the question again, what is a man and a woman in martial arts in the 20th century right now? Does that man or woman in martial arts possess integrity? Does that man or woman in martial arts care about their community? And are they leaving their mark in the world, or are they just, getting what they can from the ride? It's like Martin Lawrence said, riding the motherfucker till the wheels fall off. So where is their give back for what they got? Some of us have received this doctrine of Sanuces, and they never been back behind bars since. So
Chief Professor, Chief Professor, I have a call. Let me bring someone in.
Okay.
7880. 7880. Okay, Chief Professor, we got a minute 54 seconds. Go ahead, sir.
Oh,
Chief Professor.
As I was saying, some of the recipients of the actual immersing with the doctor have received this and have never been back behind bars since. It has provided them with a living for themselves and for their families and a structure and stability. So, again, we as disciples of the Grandmaster, for the sake of nothing else, presenting a united front and going forward and doing different things, even if they want to be in the broadcast business and the other business and the other business. I'm in the martial art business. I'm a martial arts consultant by profession. But at the same token, I'm willing to go ahead and give back to the founder. And one of the ways to giving back to the founder and making sure his legacy is remembered was the archives itself.
Chief Professor, I'm going to have to stop you. I want to thank both of you. We have about 49 seconds left. I want to thank the callers. I want to thank Grandmaster Rudy. I want to thank Chief Professor Shem Yehuda. I want to thank Grandmaster Dallas Sargent. And I want to thank the audience, and definitely, thank you for supporting the show. And also support my brother's show, get off first, because it's not about us, not about me, it's about Doc. And we need more shows. Inshallah, we have 1,000 shows, because at the end of the day, it's not about us. It's about promoting the teachings of the greatest martial artists of the 20th century. So, Chief Professor, you have the highest rank. You can take us out. We got 15 seconds left.
In spite of our irreconcilable differences, if we're going to push forward...
7 seconds, sir. Please, take us out, please.
Push forward this intellectual creation with all zeal and as authentic as you have it. And we provide the work in confidentiality to the wall and back.
Oh,